You know, we've all heard stories about what it takes to make movie magic, but sometimes it takes a level of pure dedication and exhaustion that is just almost superhuman. Today, we are diving into the absolutely wild, true story of how a young Michael J. Fox filmed one of the biggest hit sitcoms on TV and one of the most iconic movies of all time at the exact same time.
And this quote from Michael J. Fox himself really just says it all. He talked about this period as a time when his own identity, just Mike, was totally squeezed out by these two huge roles, the uptight Alex P. Keaton and, of course, the time-traveling Marty McFly. I mean, this wasn't just a scheduling conflict. It was a full-blown identity crisis playing out on a grueling 20-hour-a-day schedule. So how in the world did this even happen? Well, believe it or not, long before a single frame was shot for Back to the Future, Michael J. Fox was the one and only choice for Marty McFly. But there was a massive roadblock.
Look, for any young actor, getting the lead in a Steven Spielberg movie is the ultimate dream. But Fox was in a tough spot. He was the star of Family Ties, and the show's creator, Gary David Goldberg, who was also a mentor to him, just couldn't let him go, especially because his co-star Meredith Baxter was pregnant, so her role was getting scaled back. Fox was essential. So for the good of his show, Goldberg had to tell Spielberg no.
With Fox off the table, the filmmakers had to pivot. They cast a fantastic actor, Eric Stoltz, as Marty McFly, and production on Back to the Future officially began. For Michael J. Fox, it really seemed like the opportunity of a lifetime had just vanished. Poof, gone.
But then, more than a month into filming, a bombshell dropped. The producers were watching the daily footage, and they came to this just heartbreaking conclusion. The movie wasn't working. And they realized they had to make one of the most drastic and expensive decisions in modern Hollywood history. And look, it wasn't about talent at all. It was about finding that very specific comedic energy that the character of Marty McFly needed. So with that realization, Spielberg and director Robert Zemeckis went back to Gary David Goldberg, not just with an offer, but with a desperate, almost crazy plea. So they came up with this completely audacious plan. Fox would work his full schedule on Family Ties during the day, and then, right after, he'd be driven over to the Back to the Future set to film all night long. An agent later said that a schedule like this, with literally zero downtime, would be completely illegal today because of union rules and insurance issues. But Goldberg agreed, on one condition that was absolutely non-negotiable. Fox could not miss a single minute of his commitment to Family Ties.
And this is where we get to the grueling reality of this double life. I mean, this wasn't just working two jobs. It was a daily, relentless race against the clock, all while juggling two totally different characters.
Just look at this timeline of a typical day. He'd start at Paramount for Family Ties, and after a full day there, he'd be whisked away in a station wagon, often just passing out in the back. That short drive over the Cahenga Pass was his only transition. He had to mentally shed the skin of the buttoned-up Alex P. Keaton and become the freewheeling Marty McFly. Then it was hours of really physical scenes on the Universal backlot before he'd finally get home for maybe 4 hours of sleep, only to get up and do it all over again.
And if you think that sounds tough, Fridays were the absolute peak of his exhaustion. He'd perform in front of a high-energy, live studio audience for the Family Ties taping, and right when his body should have been crashing, he'd head to the movie set and work straight through until the sun came up Saturday morning. It was just an unbelievably brutal way to end the week.
You know, stepping onto that movie set couldn't have been easy. Remember, he's replacing a respected actor 6 weeks into production. He had to prove himself to a cast and crew who were loyal to their friend and, frankly, pretty skeptical of this new guy.
And there was a really fundamental difference in how the two actors saw the role. By all accounts, Eric Stoltz played Marty with this heavy, tragic weight, really focusing on the dark idea that he'd be a stranger in his own family. But Fox? He instinctively saw the script as a screwball comedy. He brought this incredible physical energy and comedic timing that was exactly what the director and writers had wanted all along.
His co-star, Leah Thompson, was not impressed at first, not at all. She was friends with Eric Stoltz, and she kind of saw Fox as this sitcom refugee. You gotta remember, back in the 80s there was this real hierarchy in Hollywood. Film was seen as art, and TV was, well, it was TV. So the cast was polite, but they definitely viewed him as just a TV actor who might not have the chops for a huge movie.
So how did he win them over? Pure talent. In that famous bedroom scene, Marty asks where his pants are. The script just said, on the chair. Fox suggested an ad-lib for Leah Thompson's line, changing it to, over there, on my hope chest. The line was perfect, and when the director yelled, "Cut!" the crew, who had been kind of holding their breath, just erupted in laughter.
And that was it. That was the turning point. Lea Thompson said in that exact moment, seeing his comedic skill and just his physical precision, her whole opinion of him changed. The sitcom refugee was a comedy genius, and the cast finally started to bond with their new Marty McFly. There's another great behind-the-scenes story where the script supervisor, Nancy Hansen, pulled Fox aside during his first week. She secretly told him that for the first time since filming started, the producers and editors were actually laughing out loud while they watched the daily footage. They knew their massive, career-risking gamble was finally paying off.
So in the end, the making of this movie was kind of a miracle. It was really a testament to the collective willpower of an entire cast and crew all racing against the clock to make a classic.
Now look at this number. When the producers announced they were basically starting over and reshooting 6 weeks of work, not a single crew member quit. 100% of them signed on to stay for the extra weeks and that grueling night schedule. That's how much they believed in this movie.
And this quote just shows you how high the stakes were. When Robert Zemeckis explained his plan to the head of the entire studio, to fire his lead actor and hire a sitcom star who could only work nights, the studio chief literally got up, walked to the elevator, and as the doors were closing, just looked at him and said, "You, sir, are insane." But he still gave him the green light.
When you think about it, the frantic, high-pressure chaos behind the scenes perfectly mirrored the plot of the movie. Just like Marty had to get that lightning to strike the clock tower at the absolute perfect moment, the entire production was this desperate, nail-biting race against an impossible deadline.
Which brings us to our final question. I mean, in today's world of lawyers, insurance companies, and super rigid production schedules, could something like this ever happen again? The answer is almost certainly no. This was a completely unique moment in Hollywood history. A perfect storm of desperation, unbelievable talent, and just sheer willpower that gave us one of the most beloved films of all time.